it feels like to me when this technology is developed that can answer all these questions that were previously thought to be unanswerable, that the answers aren't satisfactory.
Wonderful. Thank
Hey,
you, Emma. I appreciate you.
Steve, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Sean. I was just thinking, I loved our chat last time, and boy, I'm ready to step into the ring on this one. Let's
Sounds
go.
good.
It is an absolute privilege and joy to be speaking again with Sean King O'Grady, the creator of Suspicious Minds, back for season two. Sean, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on again, Steve. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, we spoke about season one, which is phenomenal. I love the way that this show talks about our relationship to technology. And here we are with season two, and you go all in on AI in ways that I've never heard other people talk about it, to be perfectly honest. Why did you want to focus the season this way, in this way?
First I'll give you the sort of answer that I've written out that is my official answer to this, and then I'll tell you what I mean by it. So, season one, we looked at how AI was fracturing individual minds. In season two, we look at how artificial intelligence is fragmenting our very sense of reality. And what those words mean to me is I left season one with more questions than I had answers, and I started diving into that. I started wondering, like, first of all, why are so many of the delusions that people are experiencing so grand in scope, and why do they feel so real? And it was because this technology, I believe, not only was it obviously having this very sycophantic effect that we discussed when I was on for season one, but it was because there was so much hype around the technology, that there was so much hype around what was happening, and there's so much investment happening, and it's so expected to change things for us and to have such a dramatic impact. And it was also, I've never heard this before ever, but the CEOs of the five frontier model AI companies would all mention existential risk as a potential for this technology. And like no one does that. Like sure, when talking about nuclear power, you can't not also think about nuclear war. So that's there, but it's two very separate things. It's like we develop in this direction, and there can be devastation. We develop in this direction, and unless there's a Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island type of incident, it's relatively safe. But this was, if we get this right, it could be great for humanity. If we don't get this right, there's a not insignificant chance that it's the end of the human experience on Earth. And these are the proponents of the technology, these are the people building it. So it got me thinking about, is there really an existential risk here? And what's the history of humanity applying existential risk to new technologies, to new developments, to even new thought processes? And why do we always feel that way? Like, why does every generation think for one reason or another their generation could be the last? So it's equal parts, I think, as with season one, which was look at how the technology and the mind on an individual basis were interacting. This was a look at who we are as a society, why we feel the way we do about certain things, and how this technology was sort of fitting into that narrative that had existed for thousands of years.
Well, see, this is what I find so utterly fascinating about these episodes, to be perfectly honest, because it's more than just about how can we use Chat GPT? Like you are really getting into the heart of human experience here and looking at the ways that we examine the idea of the apocalypse from the Magnifica Humanitas from Pope Leo to the Simpsons across the board. Um, can and from for you as you're delving into this and looking at it from this angle, has this changed your relationship to understanding the technology? This looking at it from this existential, to use your word, or almost religious backing that we see from its supporters.
I liked it that you brought up the word religious, because what is something that's so fascinating that's happening right now is, like, when we think of Silicon Valley and when we think of computer science and we think of data engineering, like, I think for many years the sort of public narrative was that religion had sort of lost its place in society, and that the main driving factor in society was technology and not religion. And what we've seen just in the past like 5 or 6 years since the sort of the what has happened with AI is that Silicon Valley has, and not to overgeneralize, but there is a shift back towards sort of the classical religions in Silicon Valley, which no one really thought was going to happen. And it feels like to me, when this technology is developed that can answer all these questions that were previously thought to be unanswerable, that the answers aren't satisfactory, and that people are still turning back to religion, and so people are still turning back to belief. And that's what's so fascinating to me, is like, at the end of this quest for knowledge, what we discover is life is really complex and mysterious, and maybe there are some questions that don't have answers, and maybe there are some things that we're not capable of understanding even with the greatest technology ever to be developed at our fingertips. And that the end result of that is maybe the thousands of years of humanity that looked towards the heavens for these answers, maybe they were looking in the right place all along. Like, that is a fascinating development to me. And I think it's something that can't be ignored and kind of can't be talked about enough, because it really gets to the root of who we are as a species, and what is meaningful to us and why.
Well, I'm glad you said that. It's interesting. I think it's the end of the second episode. You read a portion. I'm mixing up my quotes here, but I think in the Magnifica Humanitas, there's this comparison to the Tower of Babel, which of course is the building of the golden calf, and this is an interesting comparison with AI. But from your experience, from the people you've spoken to, what is it about us that needs to build? Because it through the history of humanity, it has always been how can we get better, faster, stronger? What is that need that we have? Why do we keep driving even at our own risk?
I I think a long time ago, some people made things a little better. And when they saw that they could make those things a little better, and they saw that, oh, we don't just have to react to the world around us. And reacting to the world around us was dangerous. It's like a bear comes into the camp and you have to fight it off, right? It's even, I'll go to the very first thing that I think of. Have you ever seen the movie Quest for Fire?
Yes, yes, a long time ago, yeah.
It's incredible. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, it is the almost, it's a completely dialogueless movie that is about humans at the time where we had figured out that fire was very beneficial to us, but we hadn't figured out how to start fire yet. So these people figured out how to capture fire. Like, basically, when lightning would strike, they would go and capture the hay that was burning in this like little jar type thing. And the success or failure of your entire community depended on whether you could hold on to that fire. So then I believe what happens is someone steals, a group steals by force this fire device, and then they have to go try to get it back and almost get killed along the way a bunch of times. And that made me think, like, this is in almost like a, what is it, what's the John Hobbes quote about life is oh god, I used to know this right off the tip, but it's like the Hobbesian nature. If you look up Hobbesian nature quote, you will see what it is. But it's like life was brutal, short, and all these other terrible things prior to the advent of modern technology and society. But it really was. And so you look at what this life was like before we could control fire, and you see that that technology, fire starting, is what kick-started civilization. And then we get agriculture, and then we get the industrial revolution. So all these things have just been making life a little better, a little better, a little better, and that rate has been happening faster and faster and faster. And now we're at the point where we have these technologies that we develop that change things so quickly that we don't have time to think about whether these are still improvements for society and improvements for individual human lives. The technology, I think at a certain point, it's almost like, I guess we can compare it to addiction in the sense that someone found something that solved their problem, right? The addict found the thing that turned off the voice in their brain that was telling them they were terrible or whatever it was that they were trying to hide from. And then at a certain point, they don't even know what they're hiding from anymore, right? They're just addicted to the feeling of not feeling bad. And I think as a society, as a species, not even a society, as a species, we became addicted to the sense that we could now control the world around us and the world had to react to us. I think that's so seductive and so addictive that the we're now just chasing it. We're chasing that feeling of controlling the world around us. We're not thinking about the consequences.
I'm not gonna lie, it always brings me back to Jurassic Park. The your scientists were so obsessed with whether or not they could, they never stopped to think if they should. And it is that I love that tension because yes, there's nothing wrong with trying to make things a little better, but sometimes it feels like we're just driving with our foot on the gas and our hands in the air. Um, and I appreciate that this film is trying to, or this series is trying to wrestle with who holds that, who holds the steering wheel, if you will. And one of the conversations that comes on is the idea of the incentives matching the mission. And how do we ensure that those who are driving behind this sort of technology in your mind, can we are making sure that those things match up, or is that even possible?
Right now, I don't think it's possible. I think Ted Tremper said something that kind of shook me to my core when we were interviewing him, which was that, and this is a paraphrase, but if if five people can essentially hold the bag for the future of society and what happens next, that's like a structural societal problem. That's not a problem with those five people. It's not a moral failing on their behalf. They're winning the game that we set up, right? This those are the rules of the world that we live in currently. And I don't think it's fair to anyone to expect on an individual level to expect anyone to be able to grapple with that responsibility, right? Like they're worried about like that enriching themselves and their shareholders, yes, and also probably, hopefully, let's give them a benefit of the doubt and saying they really do want to make a technology that makes the world a better place. Even if that's the case, it, that we shouldn't allow that. Like as a society, we should say, hold up. The fact that one of these five people could make a decision that means lights out for all the rest of us. Like we we haven't been there since what, like Kennedy and Khrushchev? Like is this what we want? Is this what we want again? Didn't we learn lessons from that? Like shouldn't some of the takeaway be that it's miraculous we got through that perilous moment? Why are we allowing ourselves to enter another one 70 years later? It just seems like that seems like a pretty backward step to me. And it seems like if we do have these incredible technologies that hopefully can make the world a better place, we should be using them to structure society in a way that is more beneficial to people and not so sort of needlessly dangerous.
Yeah, honestly, this is an incredibly massive conversation. And I know we're at a time, but I'm thrilled. I want everybody to make sure they're checking out Suspicious Minds because you spent a lot of time delving into this issue, and it's such a compelling way to discuss it. Honestly, Sean, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Oh, thanks, Steve. No, I appreciate it, and thanks. I mean, our conversation last time was fantastic, and like the depth to which you look into the shows that you're watching and covering, and the questions that you bring are just incredible. So I appreciate all that you're bringing to it as well. And can I really quick just read you that Hobbes quote about nature because it's going to drive you
Absolutely.
crazy. I know this so well. Um, okay. The Hobbesian state of nature. is Thomas Hobbes, not John Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes argued that without a governing authority, humanity would exist in a state of nature defined by perpetual war, making life, here's the quote, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And I think it's just when you think about that movie Quest for Fire, it's just those two are always connected in my mind because that is the world that you see. It's just so bleak. And we escaped that.
Yeah.
Let's let's not mess it up.
That's that is the hope. And I'm really, really clinging to that word hope on this one. Honestly, Sean, and thank you for your kind words, Sean. I really appreciate it, and I really do uh, appreciate the time to chat with you. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks. I hope to see you again soon.